From the magnificence of the king's court to the opulence of royalty, from 16th century armor to bejeweled crowns, costume designer Joan Bergen created a whole new look for the Tudor period.
It's a kind of production that doesn't come along that often, to think that you are now about to reinterpret what the King of England would have worn at that time and make it a bit more acceptable to a modern audience.
God be with all of you, and remember your duties to England.
Joan wanted something slightly different, something slightly more interesting. We went for a slightly more Renaissance feel.
I always think the audience should sit there thinking not how strange, but how interesting, how sexy. I might even wear that sometimes.
I want your opinion. Do you like this cloth?
I think it suits Your Majesty very well.
I did tons of research. I read every single thing I can. Then you go looking for fabrics and everything. You're kind of buying a frightening amount of stuff at the beginning. And then I always like to see the actors beforehand and have discussions with them. It does help if you have sketches. And I have them quite elaborately presented to show them. And you put the actor's face on the costume and they think, wow, I could look like that, how great.
Do you think Francis will have anything as fine as these?
Only if he steals them.
When it came time to find just the right look for the young King Henry VIII, Joan decided on a modern, more dynamic wardrobe.
These really are two of my favourite costumes, and therefore Jonathan Rhys-Meyers as Henry, this sort of slightly metallic-y leather. If you put these pieces in with a lot of other traditional costume, you pull it off. And these on screen have been particularly successful. Henry had the kind of rock star charisma, and that with the costumes is one of the great elements of this series.
Henry's costumes came from around the globe, including Krakow, Lithuania, Madrid, Rome, LA, and London.
When I was working in Western costumes, they had all these old costumes from Errol Flynn's time, from all those great blockbuster pictures. And this was one of them. It looks exactly like the Holbein painting of Henry at the time.
These are all just causes for war.
At all times, his clothes have to look that he is the most powerful man in the land. His jewels are the best. He, in particular, really loved clothes and was very interested in jewels and furs. At his time, spent some extraordinary sum of money.
By dressing people in a certain way, you help their character or you help create that character, and she knows this. She has psychological insight into characters.
Her Majesty, Catherine of Aragon, Queen of England.
The clothes worn by Henry's wife, Catherine of Aragon, transformed her from royal trendsetter to the ultimate fashion queen.
Catherine is probably my favourite character in the whole thing. I was always interested in her historical background. She was always a Spaniard at the English court and was very beautiful looking. She continued to be a much loved person in British politics. I'm always kind of pushing that she holds her own.
You are my enemy.
I do as His Majesty commands.
Get out of my sight.
She looks great, in every scene she's in.
Who are you?
Anne Boleyn.
No ordinary costumes could be created for Anne Boleyn, the spirited, feisty mistress of King Henry.
What you're looking for with her is that her costumes show how sassy she was. She's a bit more modern than the women of the time would have been.
Do you think it's nothing to go back to bed with your wife?
What do you think is going to happen?
What usually happens?
There's a costume that Anne Boleyn wears when she first gets that sense of power that allows her to walk into court. This particular dress, I wanted it to be as modern an interpretation as I could get away with of Tudor costumes, and even the headdress she wears is like a modern interpretation of it. I think the actress, Natalie Dormer, just has this wonderful face, those great cat's eyes. She looks beautiful but different enough to accept that she would totally have ensnared somebody then or now. She thinks outside the box, and you try and get that across in her clothes.
Each costume is beautiful and finished, and there's so much love that's gone into the creation of the costumes and the dressing of the people. But more than that, each character seems absolutely appropriate.
I always think with a long series for television, you work very hard to keep people awake. the scale of it, the complexity of it, the imagination of it. I was just bitten by the buzz.
I think this is a huge investment, a huge part of the show, and it looks fantastic.
From understated to regal to daring, Bergen's designs for the Tudors makes going back in time a fashionable journey.